This video is to explain what you need for an amplified aerial on a vehicle. These two pieces here are for turning the amplifier on, which is built into the base of the aerial on a lot of Citroens and Volkswagen Audi groups. The part number for this one is a PC5-52, which is your basic ISO connection, which is a standard female aerial there and a female aerial here. What this silver box does is it takes a 12 volt current through the blue wire, drops it down to a very low ampage and allows it to travel through the centre cable of the aerial, which will then turn the amplifier on when the stereo is turned on, so that the signal can be boosted and brought through to the stereo. If you do not use one of these, then you will probably find that the signal will be very, very weak, and you can mistake this as having a bad aerial, but it's just simply that the amplifier is not turned on, so the signal cannot get through. There is a second version, which is this unit here, which is a PC5-136. It's exactly the same type of thing, but it has the adapter for the Farker type aerials on the newer Citroens and a lot of the newer vehicles like Volkswagens and Audis. To install it, we simply plug the aerial adapter in, and we take the blue cable to either a remote output off the back of the stereo or an ignition source off the back of the stereo. If it has both, then the remote output is the preferred option. So you slide the stereo out, pull the cable in forwards, so we now have the aerial connection here, which on this vehicle is the Farker connection. So we need to use the 136, which we plug into the aerial simply. We then need to put the female aerial onto the back of the stereo. On this stereo it has the male socket, so we will also need a male aerial adapter, which is this unit here. This simply pushes into the back of the PC5-136 and will now allow you to slot that into the stereo. On this vehicle and this stereo, we don't have a remote cable on the wiring loom, so we can use the ignition source on this wiring loom. What you need to do is cut the cable. And on this one, on these they have a terminal that you can push into the back of the wiring blocks for the wiring that does not have a remote wire in the wiring loom, but the stereo has the remote output on it, so you can just simply slot that into the back. For this we'll be using the ignition source, so we would not need this piece. We can drop this off, strip both cables back, strip the other side of the cable. Now you need to put the two cables together and twist them so they're locked together. And because these cables are so thin, we need to fold them over on themselves to make them thicker so they fit inside the crimp connection properly. Now the crimp connection is a straightforward butt connection, which you slot a cable in either side. So, pop that onto the cables and crimp the cables down nicely. Give it a pull to make sure it doesn't come off. And repeat the same process on the other cable. And that is that connection now installed, so we have the aerial working. If you were to install it without the blue cable, you would have the same situation. You would have the aerial coming through, but you wouldn't have a signal coming through very well, so you would have a bad signal thinking that the aerial has not been connected. Simply connect this piece up to an ignition or a preferred remote output and everything will be fine.